Welcome to Political Beatdown, as Michael Cohen tells me before the show goes live. I got to teach you how to hold your hands, man. Well, I got to teach you, Michael Cohen, and the Beatdown Brigaders. Let's talk about why this budget that was passed by the MAGA Republicans, they were pushing this through once again at like 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m., adding new provisions last minute that gave tax exemptions and removed regulations for silencers. Yes, for silencers. In addition to just all the giveaways for billionaires and taking away Medicaid and Medicare and supplemental nutrition assistance program and getting rid of major funding for HUD that provides rental assistance. In addition to getting rid of like all of the stuff that people depend and rely on, they like slipped in provisions. Now, if you're getting a silencer, you don't have to get a license or report anything to the ATF. And there's no fee. That was their
thank goodness. Thank goodness, Ben, because nothing says a mass murder like doing it in silence, right?
And then they stole the idea from Cory Booker of these kind of child savings accounts. And then they named them first MAGA savings accounts, but then they had to change it and call them Trump savings accounts just to kind of further humiliate the United States and make the U.S. look like Kim Jong-un's North Korean regime. The international community sees what's happening. The latest Treasury bond auction was a disaster. Foreign countries, they're just watching. Like, you have Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, comes into the Oval Office. Now, he was someone like instrumental in Nelson Mandela's administration. This guy, Cyril Ramaphosa, in South Africa, has a lot of influence in South Africa, to say the least. And Donald Trump starts showing the guy like right-wing white supremacy, conspiracy, brain rot garbage, and says, here's the burial site of the white genocide. And meanwhile, Ramaphosa, he brings with him, like, they come prepared, right, Cohen? So he brings with him the white agriculture Afrikaner minister. And he's like, and he goes to Trump. He's like, why don't you ask my agriculture minister? He's white. He goes, he's white. Ask him if there is a genocide against white people. Here's the agriculture minister. And the agriculture minister says, here's what you got to understand. Just like, in the US and other places, although in South Africa, there's more of it, there is gang violence and there is a high homicide rate that's affecting white farmers and black farmers. In fact, in many areas, black farmers are being disproportionately harmed. But there's no white grave genocide site. There's no genocide against white Afrikaner farm. It's just not happening. And Trump's there doing that thing he did during the criminal trial.
Could you imagine? With the articles. He's literally trying to impress upon the President Ramaphosa. He's trying to impress upon him that there are this massive miles long of crosses on both sides of the road, that there's this massive white farmer genocide. And it's amazing because they did it like a bad episode of The Apprentice, like a reality show. Exactly. They brought in the television set that, I can tell you, I've been in the Oval Office plenty. They brought in that big television set and they ambushed this poor president. Nothing says welcome to the United States, Mr. Head of State, right? I'm not going to shake your hand. We're not going to do the pleasantries. I'm not going to roll out the red carpet. What I'm going to do is ambush you with some far right-wing propaganda bullshit, all right, in order to denigrate you, disrespect your country, which Trump believes is a shithole nation anyway, and go ahead and do it using fake information, only to then get angry at Peter Alexander from NBC News for not wanting to talk about that fake information, that fake reporting, but rather to talk about a Qatari, Hamas-backed Qatari grift. I'm so I'm so disgusted. I'm so saddened, Ben, by everything that's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, you have China putting out a message like this. China asks the US to please maintain stability of the international financial system after the Moody's downgrade of the American credit score. And so, and China's doing this also as a way to like mock the United States. And what China is doing is saying, we're the global power. Like, I just want everybody to know what they're doing, right? They're saying we're the global power now. And this crazy country called America, like, can you chill out here? We're trying to stabilize relations in the world, and you need to just chill out. Maybe take a time out right there. China is talking the way the United States used to talk. And the United States is talking the way China used to talk. China looked at the system that America had and said, we want that system. We want the best education universities in China. We want the best manufacturing and technology in China. And we want the high-paying, high-skilled jobs in China. So we know we're going to have to start off with some of the low kind of income, lower paying manufacturing jobs. But we want to be the consultant class and the high level engineers. We want to be that. So when they see Trump saying, well, we want to be the ones, you know, who put the widgets and screw the iPhones together. In China, what they're saying is, wait a minute, you want to basically take our old economy while we're taking your economy? And China's out there talking about Green New Deal, green energy, because they realize that's big business and that's big money. That's the future. And then you put forward this budget bill here that gets rid of, because Republicans don't like the word green, they get rid of everything that that former President Biden invested in to make America number one, to bring us back, as Donald Trump thinks America was its strongest in the late 18th century.
Ben, so, you know, I told you, when you and I spoke earlier today, I put out this Substack because this thing kept me up last night. I was trying to watch as much of this big, beautiful bill bullshit going on. But this thing with President Ramaphosa really bothered me. And I was thinking, because, you know, Ben, stay with me for a sec, because I want to see, I don't think that you had a chance to read my Substack, but you know how I could be a smartass, right? I mean, it got me in a lot of trouble in junior high and high school and so on. But I turned around and I said, picture this.
Keep going forward.
Right?
But yes.
In law school and in marriage.
You didn't just stop in high school, but sure, okay.
Well, I was trying to be. So I was like, picture this, right? And imagine, Ben, you're the head of state visiting the White House. You expect at the very least a little pageantry, a handshake, maybe a few vague pleasantries about trade or diplomacy. Instead, you're treated to a propaganda video, not a briefing, not a fact-based presentation, but a full-blown right-wing fever dream, edited together like a low-budget horror flick, showing images of white South Africans supposedly being slaughtered by black farmers in this fictitious race war. This is what Trump thinks poses for diplomacy. This is what happens when you elect a man who doesn't read, who doesn't listen, and surrounds himself with people whose only qualifications are blind loyalty and zero qualification. And I can go on into the Substack, but that's the point that Ben and I are trying to make. All right. This whole narrative is a lie, a straight up dangerous white supremacist talking point that's been debunked by journalists, by human rights organizations, and the South African government itself. But that doesn't stop Trump. Really, why would it? Why would it? The man is allergic to facts, and he is the moral compass of a broken lawn chair. Plain and simple. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of Political Beatdown. It's the whole point of the Midas Touch Network. Here, there's no innuendo. There are no lies. This is all fact-based. I mean, imagine imagine, and I know this all too well, when I was the key witness, the subpoenaed key witness in both the New York civil and the New York criminal case, he had this one young lady who was there, an assistant, that was carrying a portable printer. I mean, I really want you to understand this. Carrying a portable printer, along with a backpack full of blank pages and also ink. And what was the purpose of this? As things would come out, she would be printing them. So that way, when there was a break, she could hand him more and more of these faxes, these printouts from these right-wing facilities in order to, so he could then go on television and talk about how he's winning, how he's destroying everything. Now, let me be clear. That's exactly what happened yesterday. It's exactly what happened when these enablers, these sycophants, these idiots are passing him misinformation like out of control. Ben, I know you guys just posted something onto it, breaking news, but this is out of control. They are lying. The people who we elected to sit in the highest office and surrounding him are lying to the American people. I mean, this is insane.
Trump was holding up Facebook accounts as news that were flat earth conspiracy accounts that had some of the most vile racist imagery about the South African president and has the most deranged conspiracies imaginable. Everybody think of the craziest, most like extreme and radical and racist Facebook accounts that y'all have seen out there, or you have a second cousin or an uncle or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's some crazy shit. Donald Trump was holding that as the news that he was presenting in the Oval Office in what's supposed to be a diplomatic exchange with the president of South Africa, who is also a major member of the BRICS bloc of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, who's hosting the G20. Ramaphosa, someone who was instrumental in ending apartheid in South Africa. I mean, Ramaphosa is one of the people who helped end apartheid with Mandela. So Ramaphosa's there with white Afrikaners in the Oval Office, who Ramaphosa put opposition party people in his cabinet. The agriculture minister in South Africa is a white person from the opposing party. And Ramaphosa has to be there very diplomatically as Trump's face, bright, is bright orange. And Ramaphosa goes, hey, by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, Brian Glenn, is in the Oval Office asking the question. So just give yourself the image. Well, I don't have to give you the imagery, but I'll set up the clip. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend in the Oval Office, fresh off of attacking Zelensky for not wearing a suit, a war hero in the Oval Office. That was the guy who asked Zelensky the question. In there, Trump's got Facebook accounts, racist, conspiracy theory, flat earth Facebook accounts that he's showing to the president of South Africa. And the president of South Africa is like looking around to the people and saying, what in the hell is going on? So one of the issues is that there's just too many deaths. I mean, in South Africa, and it's not a genocide, it's that there's gang violence. I want to show you this clip where some of these people are saying, look, we have too many deaths. It's across the board. Here, let's play this clip.
And look how he's changed. Right. We have too many deaths, but it's across the board. It's not only white farmers. It's across the board. And we need technological help. We need Starlink at every little police station. We need drones. I actually got drones donated for the peace parks to stop elephant and rhino poaching. And his predecessor stopped the importation because he said the United States would spy on us. I mean, US basics, the ridicule. So if you can help us. Remember, sir, you and I lived in New York in the 70s. We never thought New York could be what it became. 2 commissioners, a tough mayor. We need your help to stop this awful killing. But it's across the board. And
it's across the board,
right? Across the board.
Here's Trump pointing out fake burials. These aren't burial sites. This is not a cemetery that he's pointing out. And he's trying to tell the South African president that these are the burial sites of the genocide. That isn't taking place. Here, play this clip.
Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving, they're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who was killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road, you have crosses. Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. But, okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa.
It's in South Africa. That's good. At least it's not in Kentucky. I mean, look, Ben, let's be honest. Why would any head of state, Ben, if you were the head of state of pick and choose any country, why would you ever accept an invitation from this president that believes that the ambush makes for proper diplomacy? Imagine what they had done, for example, to Zelensky when he had JD and he had Marco Rubio and others standing there waiting for that moment to pounce. So that instead of coming there and getting the pageantry, as I was saying in my Substack, you get the pageantry. That's what it's all about. It's building alliances, building relationships, building diplomacy. But instead, you get a concocted, really bad put together video that at the right moment, Trump is going to tell whoever's standing up, one of the Secret Service agents, no doubt, dim the lights. Like all of a sudden, this is some sort of a production, that this is some sort of an Apprentice presidential edition, where now all of a sudden they dim the lights and the shitty music comes and the poorly videotaped nonsense that came off of some far right-wing racist South African group showing a whole group. I read somewhere, and I don't know it to be true or not. So I'm just telling you right off the bat that this is some sort of a monument. It's not a graveyard. It's some sort of a monument, but I don't know that to be true or not. And certainly if it was, I would imagine Ramaphosa would have definitely known that. But this is, as Nika turns around and says, this is an embarrassment. He's not just embarrassing himself. And I'll tell you something. As much as I blame Trump for this, I blame these idiots that are around him, these enablers. You see, as I said in my Substack, Donald doesn't read. He doesn't do his homework. What he does is he acts out the scene that is given to him. And this is not now the first time that he is making an ass out of himself and our country in front of the entire world, on the world stage. And that's why this has to stop. This has to stop. And thank God for groups like Midas Touch Network, where we can actually call this out. We can actually show you what's really going on here. My inside info is better than anybody else's. Why? Because I live this cosplay. I live this mythology. I know what they're doing. I was a part of it going back 8 years ago. I understand nothing has changed in this playbook. It is the same crap over and over and over again. And until such time as we end up figuring out together as a community, and thank God again for Midas with the Midas Mighty and our political beatdown brigaders, thanks to all of you, we need to put a stop to not just this stupidity, but to the other stupidity that is now in DC, such as this big, beautiful bill. I mean, we have so much to talk about, Ben. It's scary. There's not one day of rest.
You know, I think the good news is that the resistance and opposition goes stronger. You know, I think that Trump, he's going to do the disastrous, devastating, horrific. I think he counted on the resistance breaking. He's getting more desperate. I mean, you even look what he did to, Harvard today because they're resisting. And they're not giving in to him, demanding essentially that Harvard be taken over and fully controlled by the Trump regime. The Trump regime announces today that any international student at Harvard will immediately basically be treated as a criminal, and they are going to be deported. They can end up in a concentration camp in El Salvador. They could end up in South Sudan. They can end up in a random country. They get deported back to their own country. With this regime, you just don't know what they're going to do. But if you go to Harvard and you're not from America, you're basically a terrorist now is how they're going to treat you. And Harvard's obviously going to sue. They're going to block it. The Trump regime's going to lose in court. But if you're a foreign student and you're the smartest students out there internationally, are you going to go to Harvard anymore? So whereas brain drain used to happen in other countries and we would get the best and brightest engineers and scientists and everybody here in the United States, now they're going to go to Europe and Canada and Australia and China. And that's where they're going to go. And so the future is being made now. Trump has destroyed, he's done it. It's done. He's destroyed the American brand. It's done. It's a Trump meme coin now. Coincidentally, tonight, Donald Trump is meeting with the winners of his meme coin competition, who each paid $1 million each to meet with Donald Trump. And as we'll show you in a little bit, Trump's propagandist press secretary says, we're not going to tell you who he's meeting with. And we know a lot of them come from foreign countries because it's his personal time. And he doesn't have to share what he does on his personal time. The question's going to be is, will we be able to rebuild from the rubble? Because we're gone. America's destroyed. It's done. Damage is done under Donald Trump. But the opposition is there. The resistance is there. The will to fight this is there. And that's what he didn't count on, that in the rubble, we would all still be standing in the rubble, fighting back. I want to remind everybody, Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, at The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to The Michael Cohen Show right now. Also, the Mea Culpa audio podcast, wherever audio podcasts are available, subscribe there. Next week, we'll do our Patreon chat, meet Michael Cohen and myself. So subscribe to patreon.com/political beatdown. Right now, we have 2 quick breaks, but first quick break of the show right now.
You ever stand in the grocery store staring at a piece of fish, wondering if it's going to taste like the ocean or more like regret? I've been there. And after everything that I've seen and everything that I've done, trust is a luxury, especially when it comes to what I put on my plate. And that's why I'm telling you straight. Wild Alaskan Company, it's the only seafood that I trust, period. When the first box showed up at my door, I was skeptical. I mean, wild caught, perfectly portioned, frozen right off the damn boat. I mean, it sounded too good to be true. But I opened it. I cooked up some coho salmon, pan-seared with a little olive oil and some sea salt. And I swear to you, I haven't looked back. The flavor, clean, rich, real. The kind of fish that makes you realize just how bad that you had it before. And here's the kicker. It's 100% wild caught. No antibiotics, no GMOs, no factory farming, just fish from pristine Alaskan waters, caught with care, shipped with purpose, and meant to be savored. Every bite supports sustainable fishing communities. I mean, it's seafood with a soul. So listen, not all fish are the same. And if you want seafood that you can trust, go right now to wildalaskan.com/beat and get $35 off your first box of wild caught greatness. That's Wild Alaskan, WILDALASKAN.com/beat. No risk, no bullshit, just the best damn fish that you'll ever eat. So thanks again to Wild Alaskan Company for sponsoring this episode. Now go eat like you mean it.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Thank you to our pro-democracy. Yeah, thank you to our pro-democracy sponsors. The discount codes are in the description below. Let's take a look at that Caroline Leavitt press conference from earlier. Here, a reporter asked her about Donald Trump spreading lies about genocide grave sites in South Africa that don't exist. Let's play this clip.
Yamiche, good to see you.
Hi, good. Thanks for taking the question.
Sure.
The president showed a video that he said showed more than 1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president choose to show that? What's not true, Yamiche? It's not true that the video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
No, it is true that that video showed the crosses that represent.
Which is what the president claimed.
The video showed images of crosses in South Africa about white farmers who have been killed and politically persecuted because of the color of their skin. And those crosses are representing their lives. Those crosses are representing their lives in the fact that they are now dead and their government did nothing about it. Are you disputing that there's no...
I'm disputing the fact that the video showed what the president claimed it showed, because it did not show that. But even more, what I'm asking you is who at the White House...
No, it did show that. It showed white crosses representing people who have perished because of racial persecution.
Verifies the videos that the president shows, and what protocols are in place when there's unsubstantiated information being put out for the world and world leaders to show?
Yamiche, what's unsubstantiated about the video? The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the Associated Press, of all places, has a picture of that very monument, and the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder." So it is substantiated, not just by that video and the physical evidence that everybody saw on display in the Oval Office, but also by another outlet in this room, the Associated Press. So you should take it up with them if you believe the claim is unsubstantiated. And that's a ridiculous line of questioning. John, go ahead. Go.
She goes, it's a ridiculous line of questioning. What's ridiculous, you know, if she views that as a win, the rest of the world, which she does, and Trump does also. But you see, the thing is, that's the biggest loser. What Trump thinks is winning is losing. What Trump thinks is losing is actually winning. We talked about this on the last episode. Trump thinks Qatar is the wealthiest country in the world because they have gold palaces. He thinks that's strength, and he begs them to give him a $400 million gold-plated jet. And when the South African president was there, he had to be like, I'm sorry, I can't give you, a gold-plated jet.
You didn't give him a book, though.
The South African president, though, was looking at Trump, though, and was basically mocking him too, and was not coming from a position of weakness. I'm the president of South Africa. Sorry, I can't get you a gold-plated jet, but I'm here to talk trade because South Africa has significant trade, natural resources and trading that's beneficial, but Trump and that whole behavior just makes people go, okay, got it. America equals North Korea.
Yeah, but Ben, here's the thing, and stay with me on this because I need you. This is a really serious issue, and it's one of the things that we talk about on every single episode of Political Beatdown. You do it on your Meiselas Brothers, on Legal AF, on my Mea Culpa podcast. We talk about it while we're all sitting here in amazement, scratching our heads and wondering, how the fuck is this actually really happening? How is it that the president of the United States thinks it's acceptable to denigrate the president of another country? How is it possible that they could be providing the president of the United States with misinformation that he then spews, right? And has a press secretary who continues to regurgitate the same lies? How is all of this happening? And then we say, this doesn't make any sense. We need to stop him. We are stopping him, and so on. But then you turn around and you look to see how the big, beautiful bill, which according to all economists, not just some, but all that I have read at least, is going to add $30 trillion to our deficit over the course of 10 years. 30 trillion. I want people to understand, with this big, beautiful bill that they managed to pass, so it is a win for the assholes. They actually won, and they got this through at least the House. And everyone's saying it'll never get through the Senate. Well, nobody thought it was going to get through the House either. No one thought Trump was going to win. Nobody thought, Marco Rubio or Kristi Noem or, half of these folks that are now running, Pete Hegseth, that they were going to become cabinet members. Well, they have. And what I'm saying is slowly, inch by inch, foot by foot, right? Yard by yard. They're actually moving the goalpost farther and farther and farther. And it's why I know I do, and I know Ben does. We thank you all for being part of this community, being part of this conversation. It's why when we use Patreon, and it's just a way to support Midas Touch Network, we ask you, join us visually. You see, you could see us, but we can't see you. I mean, we have a bunch of trolls that are in here, but we have tremendous support. Join us so that we can see one another and we can engage. We can answer the questions that are on your mind. And then, by the way, nothing for nothing, I take some of those questions and I use them in my Substacks and in my YouTube videos, on my Mea Culpa podcast. I use them because sometimes some of the issues that you bring up aren't even things that I'm thinking about, but they're really important. We are not winning this fight the way we need to. There aren't four members of the Republican Party, not four, that believe that this big, beautiful bullshit bill that is going to strip Medicare, that's going to take food out of children's mouths, cancer research, private education, privatized education, and so on and so forth. It's so convoluted, this just about 1,200-page bill. Seriously, we now have to rely upon the Senate in order to protect us? I say, I don't rely upon anybody. I rely on Ben. I rely upon Brett and Jordy and Midas Touch Network. I rely upon our brigaders. I rely upon my Michael Cohen Mea Culpa supporters. That's who I'm relying upon. We need more. So each and every one of you, you're always asking me in DMs, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Let me tell you right now what you can do. Go tell one friend to join this network. Tell them to subscribe to Ben, to me, to whomever. Join the conversation, join the community, because the only thing that these pieces of shit understand is that they don't want to lose their job. And they're more afraid of Donald Trump than they are of us. And we need to change that. We need to flip that script.
June 14th is going to be the big No Kings protest that Indivisible is running. And we've been making sure that Indivisible has a distribution network, a home for them to talk about their activity, their protests, peaceful protests, of course. And we're going to be doing more announcements with Indivisible here on the Midas Touch Network. I'm sure you all know their founder, Ezra, who's a great guy, and their team, their leadership team, rather. And so in the coming weeks before the No Kings protest on June 14th, as Donald Trump wants to have his military parades and Donald Trump wants to do all of that. I think it's going to be the biggest protests yet. I've been saying it's going to be democracy summer. And, I'm glad that this network can play a small, very humbly small part in amplifying and connecting some of the great groups like Indivisible to our audience. 5150, shout out to them. And all the great groups that are a lot of unions working on that as well. I want to show you, I did yesterday, Cohen, 17 interviews with Democratic Congress members, Democratic
that's
Senate.
Why you didn't call me back, huh?
Democratic Senator. We did 17, and now
I constantly say that between Ben, Brett, and Jordy, they treat me like the redheaded stepchild. I'm the redheaded stepchild brother.
Let me be very clear. I'm pro redheaded. Let me be very clear about my political position on redheaded stepchildren. Very supportive right here, and
yes,
are integral to the are integral and welcome, and very much supported at the Midas Center. But let me show you Democratic Congress member McGovern right here. This was right around the time this disastrous bill was passed. I just want to show you what the Democrats were saying about it, because, look, I think the Democrats, at least as it relates to this budget bill, as the opposition party, they weren't going to be able to block it. They certainly made it very difficult on the MAGA Republicans, introducing close to 1,000 amendments and making sure that at least the American people were educated about what is in there and why it is dangerous. So here's Democratic Congressmember McGovern. Let's play this clip.
That's the Republican agenda. That's what you guys think is big and beautiful. Greed, corruption, and tax breaks for billionaires. My state of Massachusetts funds states like Indiana, where the gentlelady is from. We get back less than we give. And so how dare she or anyone else vote to steal our tax money and give it to billionaires? So no, we will not go quietly. And no, we will not give up. We will fight this cruel, corrupt, immoral bill every step of the way, because the people we represent are counting on us. And we will never stop fighting for them. I urge every member of this House to vote hell no, never, absolutely not on this terrible disgrace of a bill. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlelady from India.
Here's Democratic Congress member Doggett. Here's what he had to say, that we now found out as the night progressed that actually the MAGA Republicans did indeed target Medicare, not just Medicaid, Medicare, by about at least $500 million. So those on Medicare, the Trump regime is coming for you also. Here, play this clip.
Breaking yet another promise. Republicans are cutting Medicare by $500 billion. On October 1st of this year, every Medicare health care provider will see a 4% cut, and that will occur year after year after year as seniors try to find someone who will accept Medicare. And on January the 1st, millions of Americans who rely on the Affordable Care Act lose their access to a family physician. Medicaid for those in nursing homes, for half the babies born in my hometown of Austin, cut. Almost 14 million Americans losing their access to health care. And the new Trump school voucher sabotage plan, atop state vouchers, incentivizes removing students from public schools. Meanwhile, our national debt soaring by trillions from Republicans who talk fiscal responsibility, but serving their cult leader. The deficit hawks have become chicken hawks tonight in submission to Trump, the self-described king of debt, all to reward billionaires with even more tax breaks.
Here's what AOC had to say. Let's play this clip.
90 seconds.
Thank you so much, and I thank the ranking member for yielding his time. 13.7 million Americans. 13.7 million Americans are the number of people in this country whose health care are going to be stripped in this bill. Now, Republicans are going to try to tell you every single distraction in the book from that essential number. I want people at home to understand that Medicaid and the federal matching funds for Medicaid can make up 30 to 40% of some of the state budgets that we have going on back in your home. Republicans have put this bill together, rushed it together in a matter of hours on the back of a napkin, shaking it, walking out of the White House, and brought it right here to this floor. They are defunding Planned Parenthood. They are ending tons of Medicaid coverage for 13.7 million Americans, including Affordable Care Act coverage as well. And if you want to get an abortion and have a silver plan on a health care plan that you paid for, you will also be affected by this legislation as well. Also, allowing suppressors on guns to be deregulated to some of the largest amounts that we have seen since the 1930s. This is just a Christmas bill.
I yield the gentlelady 30 seconds.
And so I want people to understand, for my Republican colleagues who are sure what is in and not in this bill, in this process that has been this rushed, when you wake up in the morning, you will realize that you voted to defund Planned Parenthood and to take away health care from 13.7 million Americans. And when this country wakes up in the morning, there will be consequences to pay for this. And I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
Powerful. I want to get your thoughts on that, Cohen. But first, I want to remind everybody about your YouTube channel, at The Michael Cohen Show. Everybody, make sure that you subscribe to at The Michael Cohen Show's YouTube, the Mea Culpa audio podcast as well. Make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast. And Michael Cohen's got a great Substack also. Michael Cohen is a great writer. He contributes to the Midas Touch Substack. But I'm not just saying this to be nice to you because you're so nice to me on the show. You go, yeah. I'm saying this because you actually happen to be you write really good articles that get me thinking. And your perspective is really appreciated during these difficult times. So let's take our last quick break of the show. Then I want to get your reaction to what I just showed you there. Let's take a quick break.
So last week, I swung by my folks' place because I got that dreaded text. The TV's broken. Nothing's working. We think the cable company's out to get us. You know parents, right? So I walk in, and the input was on HDMI 3 instead of 1. That's it. Okay, click, boom, crisis averted, family peace restored, and I'm suddenly the Sun tech genius. Now listen, I love my parents, but helping them with tech over the phone? I mean, seriously, it's like trying to defuse a bomb in another language, blindfolded. And don't even get me started on video calls with the grandkids. I mean, every call starts with, "Can you see me?" and ends with, "Where'd you go?" Well, let me let you know, this podcast is brought to you by Jubilee TV, who happens to be the answer to our prayers. Jubilee TV connects your loved one's TV to your phone. So if the remote's acting up, if the channel's wrong, or they accidentally signed up for Spanish Netflix, well, you can fix it from anywhere. No apps to learn, no new tech. They just use the TV, same one that they've been yelling at for the last 20 years. Look, I got Jubilee TV for my parents last month, and it has been a total game changer. I mean, I can drop in virtually, put on their favorite TV shows. I can even help them join family video calls, all without being that kid who calls too much or not enough. I mean, they feel independent. I feel sane. Everybody wins. Meanwhile, their favorite feature? Easy video calls on the TV. No phone juggling of passwords. Mine? Setting reminders so they know that they're taking their meds and not missing appointments. I mean, it's like being present without being in their face. Look, your parents want to stay in their home. You want to keep them safe. Jubilee TV, it makes it possible for both of you. So head right now to getjubileetv.com and use code BEAT for $25 off your order. One more time, that's getjubileetv, GetJubileetv.com, and use code BEAT so that they know I sent you. Trust me, less stress, fewer panic calls, and everyone's watching what they actually want to watch. That, my friends, is a win.
It was funny when I got my Jubilee and I was, looking through it. That's a great idea because you get those phone calls all the time as well. So I was like, we'll streamline things. I'll control it. I'll control, especially where my parents live on the East Coast. So Cohen,
I got the phone call the other day. My dad's hearing aid somehow hooked itself into my mom's cell phone. So every time her cell phone rings, it rings into his ear. They got everywhere. Nobody could end up fixing it. Actually, my tech genius nephew, he took care of it. 1, 2, 3. So he's actually the favorite of the month.
Cohen, I showed you some of those clips of the Democratic Congress members. I'll show you one more of Leader Jeffries giving his floor speech, and then I want to hear your thoughts about this bill in general, because at its core, for me, I just think set aside the politics, don't the naming, the nomenclature. At the end of the day, this is I view it as a murder bill. Is how I view it. Like, I view it as this bill is intended to steal healthcare, which is going to kill people. That's why I call it a murder bill. It's going to steal healthcare from people. People are going to die so that billionaire oligarchs can get their 11th mansion, their 4th G5 or G6 or Bombardier jet. Really? That's what we're doing as a country. And then you heard AOC say, and we've removed the regulation on suppressors for guns. That was the big reveal that got the vote of MAGA Republican Congress member, Clyde. Literally, you could read the text. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff in there. Tanning beds. You can't make this stuff up. Tanning beds got tax exemptions, but hospital beds got removed. Seriously. Oh, there's a provision in there, Cohen, literally clearly unconstitutional. But the provision says that federal courts cannot issue contempt rulings, that they will be divested of their authority to find anybody in contempt and retroactively. It's just lawlessness. And again, Article 1 can tell Article 3 you can't issue a contempt ruling, but they're going to try. They're going to try. Let me show you what Jeffries said.
And worse, they're succeeding.
Yeah, let me show you what Jeffries has to say. Then let me ask you some questions.
Taxpayers will stand up for Social Security, stand up for Medicare, stand up for Medicaid, stand up for nutritional assistance, stand up for our children, stand up for our veterans, stand up for our seniors, stand up for our families, stand up for the American way of life. That's what House Democrats will continue to do. We will stand up today, stand up tomorrow, stand up this week, stand up next week, stand up this month, stand up next month, stand up this year, stand up next year, stand up at all times until we end this national nightmare and restore the American dream for every single person in this great land from sea to shining sea. Vote no. I yield back.
Now, Cohen, I just want...
Great speech. Accomplished nothing. Yeah, he got the standing ovation, which one would expect as the minority leader. Let me be very clear. All right. And I have no issue with Hakeem. I know Hakeem Jeffries. He's a good man. But here's the bigger problem. I know what I would have done. I know what I would have done if I was the minority leader. You already had 2 Republicans voting no. One who decided present but didn't vote. What did you need? You needed 2 more Republicans. I wouldn't have been working on my speech in order to get a standing ovation from the people who would stand up and clap for you if you fucking burped and farted in the goddamn microphone. What you do is you go find 2 Republicans and you make them switch. You sit with them, because I know that the key to success in diplomacy is reaching across the aisle. We also know, just based upon numbers, they will continue to win unless we are able to bring two individuals with some seichel, with some brains, with some heart, some empathy, who care about America, who care about the Constitution. He's talking to himself. He's talking to his people, the same people that were going to vote no matter what he said. You needed two more Republicans. Sit down with them. Explain to them, we're not opposed to every single thing in the bill, but let me tell you what we are opposed to. We're opposed to stripping, 17 million Americans of health care. We're worried about seniors who are going to end up losing sort of Medicaid benefits. We're worried about those people who are suffering from cancer that aren't going to be able to get treatments. We're worried about education of our children. We're worried about the future of our children who won't be able to pay the debt that we, our generation, placed upon them ever. That's what they needed to do. Find two with a heart. Instead, what do? They're preaching the same horse shit that they do at every fucking meeting, at every hearing. And here's the bottom line. We are losing little by little. Little by little, they're moving the goal line more and more and more. Literally, more and more and more, to the point that by the time they finish moving the goal line, we're not even going to remember where it started, because this is the problem. There's so much chaos. There's so much that is going on right now that every single one of us turns around and says, come on, this can't be real. This can't be happening. Trump can't be selling access for $1 million in meme coins. Well, he is. And how much money do you think he's going to rake in? I don't know, 100 mil? How much money did he make off of his NFTs? I don't know. How much money did he make off of his cryptocurrency? The other one, I don't know, 3 billion, 4 billion. How much did he make off of Truth Social? I don't know, 5, 6 billion. The guy has made over $10 billion since he became president-elect. Let that sink into your heads for a second. He has corrupted the presidency to the extent that he has made it a for-profit business. And who are the suckers that lose while he makes? Us. And they're sitting there and they're talking at a hearing about, oh, we're going to fight today, we're going to fight tomorrow. Fuck you. You don't need to be fighting. You need to get two Republicans. How hard could it be? Find two Republicans that want to do the right thing for their constituents. This isn't about only Democrats. Republicans, red state Republicans, are going to suffer the most. And on behalf of all of these Republicans, these feckless, spineless assholes that didn't have the guts to stand up to Trump and this ugly fucking bill, fuck you. Two-finger salute to all of you. Fuck you all.
Cohen, number one, the MAGA Republicans were not even talking to the Democrats through much of the process, refused to even engage in any debate until the text was already dropped at kind of 1 a.m., refused to engage. I mean, so we're talking about individuals who are already approaching things in bad faith. And in theory, it would be great if you had two rational Republicans, but the Republican Party, in my view, has been purged. There is not two. They don't exist anymore. And that doesn't mean that Democrats shouldn't be fighting harder. It just means I think that trying to find two Republicans to do the right thing is like trying to find a pig that is flying. Okay, I think that it would be pretty interesting if I walked outside and saw, a pig with wings flying in the sky, and I'd be like, holy crap, is that a flying pig? But I don't expect to see that, and I don't expect to have hope that there will be a flying pig. What I do hold out hope for, though, when I see data, is I see data moving at least in the right direction for individual Democratic candidates who are running on issues that matter to people. I have hope and confidence that the country is not looking to talk about bathrooms and transgender volleyball players right now, as they may have during the election. I think Americans right now, and we saw that in the Omaha mayoral election, where the longest serving Republican incumbent lost her seat after winning in 2021 by 20 points, losing to the Democratic challenger, John Ewing Jr. We just saw a Democrat in New York's 22nd Senate district, somewhat near you, Cohen. This Democrat, Sam Sutton, won this special election in an area that Trump won that area in the election by 55%. So there was an 88% overperformance for Democrats there. The Democrat wins the New York Senate special election with 68%. This was a deep red Trump area, a lot of immigrants in this area as well. And so I do think it's at least resonating with the American people. Now, that doesn't solve for the question that I think we all need to rightfully be asking, which is there going to be a free and fair election in the midterms? Because if Trump and these MAGAs have their way, they want to get rid of elections, period. And they want to get rid of the idea of a 2028 election. They want America to be like Russia. That's where they're moving towards. So unfortunately, Cohen, my own strategic view, is that you're a Republican in Congress relying on one, again, is like relying on.
But I'm not been relying on one. We're talking about there's 220 Republicans.
They're all Trumpy
representatives. There's no way that you cannot find. They already found two that came out. One of them, there's really three if you consider the one who abstained altogether. You need 4 Republicans. You need 2 more Republicans. I believe that there needs to be reaching out over the aisle in order to go back to the days like when I first started in the Capitol, when I worked as a legislative assistant for Congressman Joe Moakley of Massachusetts, when I was a junior in college in 1987. Everything was reaching across the aisle. The Tip O'Neill manner, the whole bit, you needed to reach across the aisle. Our democratic republic rests on it, and I truly, truly believe that it could be done. And that's what I would be concentrating on right now. And imagine if you could find 2, just 2 more or 4. Imagine you could find 4, flip them over, make them Democrats, turn the balance of power, end up getting rid of people like Marjorie Toilet Green as a chairperson screaming for decorum. That's my hope. That's my wish. And I will continue to fight to see whether or not we can make that happen.
You're a hopeful guy. You're thinking. Some may call it wishful. But and this is where we disagree, but we have that debate publicly, where I don't believe that there are 2 anymore. I think that they're Trumpy. I think if you look at even someone like a Mike Lawler, who ran as a centrist type of guy, or who promised his district that he would, in New York, that they would get rid of the state and local tax deduction caps like totally, or promised he would bring up the cap to $100,000 for deductions. The fact that he's settling on $40,000 and claims that that's a win, while his constituents lose Medicare and Medicaid, he's more afraid of Trump writing a bad tweet about him than his constituents. And if a guy like Lawler, is to me, that would be the kind of guy, because he ran on being a centrist. When he becomes very MAGA-y, it's up for his constituents to realize that that someone like that's got to go. And you need new people in here. So where I put my efforts into is exposing what's in this legislation, so we all know fight back against the disinformation, and then promote these peaceful protests like the No Kings protest on June 14th, because we've got to peacefully take to the streets, and we've got to peacefully show the strength in numbers, again, peacefully, of where the American people are. We know that in terms of the polling, Trump's at the lowest approval of any president in history at this stage right now. But when you see his polling and there's still 37% to 42%, that's still a lot of people who, after all of this, still go, yup. And that's a problem, in my view. And those people are some of the people who are getting hurt the most. But look, every day on Political Beatdown, every day on this network, we're gonna roll up our sleeves and work. As I said yesterday, doing 17 interviews, Senator Kelly, Senator Warnock, Congresswoman Bynum, and then 14 Democrats throughout the day. We would do interviews about what was going on, giving the Midas Touch Network subscribers and followers kind of an inside look into everything that was happening. And we're going to keep doing that. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Check that out. Make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast wherever it's available. Search Mea Culpa wherever it's available. Patreon.com/Political Beatdown. Check that out as well. And subscribe to the Midas Touch YouTube channel. We're on our way to 5 million subscribers. And as Cohen says, we got to make that 10 million quickly, and then 20 million, and then 50 million, because that means we're just getting in front of more people who are hearing fact-based, objective-based reporting with receipts. Play the clip. Play the clip. Here's the graph. Here's the chart. Here's what it is. Listen to it for yourself. Make your own judgments. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with Cohen. We don't agree with each other on a lot of issues, but look at the receipts, evaluate the evidence yourself, and assess it and think critically. And that's what we want you to do here on Political Beatdown and the Midas Touch Network. So shout out Brigader, shout out Midas Mighty. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time on Political Beatdown.
Boom.